Hello, thanks for stopping by to check out my video on my Kyosho Ultima Pro XL. You're with Jason at True Vintage RC. And what I've got here today is my vintage racer, which I'm going to be entering into a 5-hour vintage enduro shortly. And this car has recently been rebuilt and I've given it a bit of a test run, but there's some things I still want to do to get it right. So the purpose of this video today was to share with you some small things that I wanted to do to help with reliability, and hopefully this car will last the time out there on the racetrack. So what I've got is some upgrades, nothing that really changes too much about the car, but basically I found the chassis to be potentially a little bit too flexible. So I've been working with Paul at Berserk, who's just cut me some carbon fiber components to help me stiffen the car up and aid me with some options that I wanted to do. So I sent him down some of the original components and some dimensions in drawings, and Paul has been very helpful and helped me design and come up with a solution for these items. And the carbon fiber work, you've got to say, is absolutely perfect, and we're all very grateful that Paul is around, especially for the fact that he's in Melbourne here in Australia, which means we're not paying international shipping fees. So anyone out there who's after bits and pieces like this, Paul's fantastic. You can send him the original components and he'll remake them out of carbon fiber and all fiberglass. And what you're looking at right now is I've got some Losi plastic wing mounts, which is all I really had here at home, so I didn't go buy anything, but Paul helped me work with the dimensions of those wing mounts, and I'm now just doing a test fitting of the wing mount to the tower, and you can even see that the screws are nicely countersunk. Everything just fits absolutely perfectly, and I couldn't say enough good things about the work that Paul does. So again, I don't get sponsored by Paul. This isn't a paid commercial, but you know, I'm very grateful for people who do help us guys in the vintage community out with these upgrades and helping us replace some broken or non-existent parts that we didn't have. And what you can see here is I haven't changed any of the dimensions of the tower other than to put an extra brace in above where the old tower came up on each side, and it may look a bit ugly, but the body does sit on that ledge up there. So that was the concept. So yep, and what we've got here is the original components that came off the Pro XL, and I did send them down to Paul, and he's worked with them to help me create a top plate to help stiffen up that chassis flex. And I've got to say, I'm very impressed with it all. I opened up the package and I looked at the quality of the workmanship, and it's the same with Paul every time. So in regards to this top plate, Paul's helped me make top plates for my TRX1. He's even made one for my short wheelbase or standard wheelbase Ultima. So he does have these things on file, so if people want to contact him and they need components, or they can send him some components, he can draw them up and put them on file, and they're ready to be cut any time. And in regards to the front shock tower, I actually hoped to get them 3mm taller, which is what Paul did, because I found the shock was bottoming out before it was getting full suspension through. And yeah, this bit's probably going to bore a few people, but why not? I could have edited a whole lot of this out, but hopefully people sit through it. But here I am applying CA glue to the edges of all the carbon fiber, because this prevents the sheet from delaminating. And the tops of these shock towers, they do take a bit of a nasty hit when they roll over on the track, and they do tend to wear, and this just helps protect and hopefully stop them from delaminating. Not to say there's anything wrong with this material, but it does happen even with modern cars and really good quality stuff. So it's just something you're supposed to do even with new kits now. Well, should have been doing it all along, but anyhow, this is yeah, that's the finish of the glue, and I'm very careful not to try and get it all over the glass. It is a bit fiddly, and I am playing around with different camera angles here in order to try and show the viewer and if you're an unexperienced person with this, maybe they can get more of an idea. But this 2mm top plate here is very thin, so I'm trying to apply the CA to the very edge of it, and then I'm using the orange nozzle to spread and wipe it further around. So once it starts to pull, I just start to direct it around with that orange nozzle. And what I was finding is the glue tends to sort of dry up in that nozzle, so I'm working as quickly as I can, and before it actually seizes up and then I can't use it anymore. Anyhow, so whether or not this bores people to death, you can leave it in the comments, but I hope this does help someone out who perhaps wasn't aware of this sort of thing. But this is what is supposed to go on with carbon fibre used on these applications, and it's worked really well for me. I've done it on my race cars in the past and haven't had any real dramas. In fact, I have had some carbon fibre delaminate that wasn't glued. So yeah, I thought I'd better put this one in and share that with the viewer. Sorry, that's my fat hands getting in the way of the camera. I'm trying out some different camera angles here and lighting, and it's all experimental at this point. I'm still very new to creating content for YouTube in this manner, and I have to say I've never tried videoing myself to assemble and work on cars. It's usually you're on the workbench and you're not really having to share the view of what you're doing with a camera. So my head right now is around the side of my camera and the lighting to try and show the viewer and check through the viewfinder that it is actually in frame. So anyway, I do apologise if it's not perfect, but I will learn and I will get better. So yeah, this is the second tower. I've got two front towers because you just never know rollovers, and in the heat of battle for 5 hours, although it is a team event, I still will get at least an hour's worth of driving in this event, and anything can happen, so it's better to have a spare one ready to go. So yeah, I glued up both front towers so that I can pull this or any other spares out of my box should I break something on the day, and keep the car going around the track and hopefully keep my team happy, and we get a trophy at the end. You never know. So we're winding up now on the end of the CA application on the shock towers. Again, sorry if this has bored anyone, however, but anyway, I thought it might be interesting for people who just like watching CA go on the shock towers. Anyhow, so the car's on the stand, we're spinning it around now. It's time to start stripping it down and cleaning up everything. And I should have got a job with George Lucas, no doubt, because my stop motion is just fantastic. Look at that work there. I hope this gives someone a laugh. But anyhow, it was kind of fun trying to make this. But here's the car actually stripped down and, well, starting to be stripped down, and off camera I did strip it all down and clean everything up. And I thought it might be worth a mention this time to show what I do with my bearings. Now, I know there are bearing blasters and sprays and all this sort of stuff, but I usually just go along and I brush any debris off the outside of the bearing, and then I spin it, and then you can see if it's even frozen up. Anyhow, we're rolling up now to the end of the video. All the parts have been very carefully cleaned and everything's been laid out and placed out, and it's ready for the next video. So please come again, watch the second video, which is going to have the build and the modifications that are being done to the car, and hope to see you again soon.